Hey everybody, welcome back to Rusty Guns. So today we are going to do a quick review of the Hi-Point model 4595. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to be as unbiased with this as I can possibly be. I think I can do a good job of that because I have never owned a Hi-Point. I have never shot a Hi-Point. So I'm going to judge it based on the gun itself. I'm not going to compare it to a different gun or anything like that, because I think that's kind of unfair when you do that, because some guns are inexpensive to buy, they're not made with as good of materials as other guns. That's why the other guns are more expensive. So we're going to try to just make this a straight, I'm just going to do the review, tell you the different features, maybe things I like or dislike, and then we'll take it outside, we'll shoot it, and we'll see how it performs. Now, any of the particular description stuff, length, barrel length, stuff like that, I will put all of that in the description so you guys can check that out instead of me saying it and you trying to remember. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. So start off, basically has a plastic type frame here, and then this piece of metal is actually a covering, almost kind of like a shroud, and it's pressed metal, or stamped, I guess you want to say, and it's not very thick at all, so this could get dented probably pretty easily. The plastic is not a typical of a high density polymer. Okay, it's a basic plastic, and I can say that and tell that because of this up here. Okay, you can see how this is bowed, and this is either happened because of heat from the barrel or just literally heat from outside. I'm not sure, but that typically does not happen with the higher density polymers. They don't kind of warp like that. All right, so moving on, the mag release is right here, which I'm not quite sure about, because when I hold this, my thumb kind of rests on that mag release, and maybe, I can kind of push that just like that. The grip is kind of big for my hand, so if you had bigger hands, it probably wouldn't be as bad, but I'm just not quite sure about the mag release being literally right there where my thumb rests on it. Safety is right here. It's just a lever safety. It is only on the left hand side. Mag release is only on the left hand side. Charging handle is also on the left hand side, which I actually like, because you're able to keep your strong hand on the grip and charge from the left hand side to clear jams or whatever. So I actually like charging handles being on the left hand side for me. To lock the charging handle to the rear, you can see that there is an oval cut out right there, and then this round piece right here, you just pull it back and push it in, and that will lock the bolt to the rear. Picatinny rails at the top, also at the bottom here, and then that one that's way out here is, I'm not sure what you'd ever use that for. Maybe putting a laser or a flashlight or something on it, but I'm not quite sure. I think that's kind of a waste of them putting that there. But anyway, the magazine well, not really flared out too much. It is kind of angled back here at the tail end. The magazines, they look like a typical 1911 magazine. However, they're not. The opening right here is much larger than on your standard 1911 mags, which I think that's kind of a thing where Hi-Point might have missed out on. I think if they would have made this, fit standard 1911 magazines, I think it would have been a much better selling point for this gun. Being able to use magazines that are already in existence and people can find pretty readily, rather than having to find these specific type of magazines. So anyway, the frame itself, you'll see that there are lots of these like screws all the way around this thing, and I believe that's because the frame itself comes into two pieces. Now you don't have to take those out to field strip this gun. If you want to know how to do that and you want to see the internals, I have another video which I can also put a link to in the description, where I field strip this and show you guys the inside. On the opposite side, okay, opposite side, we can see the extractors right here, and you know, there's actually, let's see if you guys can see that a little better, right there. Okay, I'll show you guys that. You can see the extractor right there, and that's two little pieces of metal that are like hooked like that. They move together, but they also move independently. So if you want, you can, when you have this apart, you can move just that bottom one and the top one stays in place. You can move just the top one and the bottom one stays in place. And for the owner of this gun, I noticed that sometimes it doesn't always catch the edge of every shell and eject it. So I don't know if there's a problem with this particular extractor, if it's coming with all of the Hi-Points or it's just this particular gun. But you know, it won't, these, as it's pushing this shell in, it's supposed to grab the, as it's pushing the round in, it's supposed to grab that edge right there, and it doesn't always do that. And so you end up with, after it's fired, the casing still up inside the chamber, and then you have to go drop the magazine, lock the bolt to the rear, and get something to pop this out so that you can get that empty casing out of there before you end up having a double feed or a different issue. Okay, so overall, you know, like I said, I can't compare this to another 45 carbine because, you know, it's not going to be made with the same materials. You know, if I was to compare this with my Thompson, you know, that's a total unfair comparison because, yes, my Thompson's much more expensive, but it's also made with higher quality materials. The tool and die sets that they probably use at Auto Ordnance are probably a lot more expensive and better ones than they use here at Hi-Point, so it's an unfair comparison. So I think for the money that you're spending, what you're getting is probably fair. Okay, I still think even for the money, though, there's a few things they could have changed. One of those is on the inside, so you'll have to see that video if you want to know what that is. But also, you know, things like that up there, that's not necessary. That shouldn't even be there. You know, the magazines, you know, not being fitted for 1911, it would have been so easy to do that, and then, you know, it's a much better selling point. Using plastics like this that have all of these little ridges, but they don't actually do anything, you know, because there's not an opening. There's just like little, just molded plastic in there, so it doesn't really do anything. So having things like that, I think it's just, that's supposed to be kind of all for show, and it doesn't really add to the value of the gun. But it costs money to do things like this, so I think taking out things like that and putting it somewhere else in the gun would be a much better idea. But, you know, I'm not a gun maker. I don't work at Hi-Point. So, you know, my opinion doesn't really matter. That's up to them how they do their thing. But anyway, let's go ahead and take it outside and shoot some rounds out of it, and then I can give you a better idea of how the gun actually feels and whether I like the gun or not. Okay guys, so I'm out here with the Hi-Point carbine, and we're gonna take a few shots just to see how it runs and operates, and then I'll give you my opinions on it. We'll shoot 5 rounds out of their standard magazine, And then I have another magazine, which is the reason why I had the Hi-Point to begin with. The gentleman wanted me to get this 1911 drum magazine to work in the Hi-Point. But it had to be modified, and I can't show you how I modified it to make it work, which I'm going to be testing here in a second, because if I do that, then YouTube won't monetize the video. But because I probably said gun in this video, they'll probably make me request for it to be reviewed before it can be monetized anyway. Enough of that though. Let's just get to shooting and see how it operates. Okay, all right, so here we go with 5 shots out of the standard magazine. We'll see how accurate his little spot is on here. And that's it. 5 shots, 5 hits. Let me go ahead and take you up there and show you those 5 shots. All right, there we go. 5 shots, 5 hits. Only looks like there's 4, but that one right there is 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and because some of you like chronograph tests and whatever, the chronograph read that that's fast enough to kill. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is the drum magazine, and see if that is operating like it should. There we go. Well, I put 6 in there apparently. There we go. And that's it. All right, so let's go up there and take a look at that. I can give you a better idea of where this was actually hitting, because I was aiming between these 2 spots right here. And so everything was right up here in this upper corner. Because every trigger pull I was aiming right here, so all up here. All right, so some final thoughts on the Hi-Point 45. It shot just fine. I'm about 25 yards away from the target, in case anybody was wondering. Shot just fine. Recoil was a little more than I would expect, but manageable. I wasn't expecting it to be as jumpy as it was, but like I said, it's manageable, and the grouping is good, so it groups well. It's accurate, and it functioned perfectly fine. So, you know, if you're on a budget and it's something that you're thinking about getting, you absolutely could. Now, if you've seen my other video, or if you haven't seen it, where I break the gun down, I want you to go check it out. Because one of the things is, I got a call while I was out here from the owner of the gun, because he saw the video that I posted this morning on when the gun how the gun breaks down, and he said no, he bought that gun from Hi-Point. So the flaws that I showed, the kind of cosmetic flaws I showed in the bolt carrier on it, those came from the factory like that. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to all of you. So please go check out the video of how I break the gun down, so that you see what I'm talking about. And then, you know, use this video and that video to decide whether it's worth spending the money to buy the gun. But as far as I can say, the gun functions properly and it shoots properly. You know, so I'll just leave it at that. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time.